So you're now tuned in to 13signsastrology.com, and I want to go ahead and go back into some of the information pertaining to cloning, and go ahead and follow through with some more of that information. So I guess we can kind of call this a part 4, and it's interesting that the sister asked me to do that episode on cloning or whatever, because that's going to kind of lead to a series of different episodes pertaining to cloning and how different year markers, and there was different dates that were used in these different experiments. What I'm going to try to do over the course of maybe about a year or so is eventually tie this into like a course material or something like that, and either go around and lecture it, which I probably won't do, or maybe make it available online or something, or I don't really know how it's going to get out. But anytime I create something, I have to put it out some kind of way, even if it's just amongst a small group of people. But what I want to talk about now is this aspect of cloning in reference to Shimti. And this, I think I mentioned this on another episode, and this was supposed to be a laboratory that was used in the cloning. Now I'm going to go ahead and jump back into some of the stuff I was talking about on the Ancient Mystic Order of Melchizedek episode, and go ahead and say this here. Now, you heard Dr. York talk about a lot of this, and a lot of people said, oh, you just went and pretty much you just making remakes of what Dr. York said. I've already read this. This isn't really referencing anything, and this isn't interesting. But if you kind of stay with the course of this video in a minute, I'm going to try to make it more interesting. But I want to kind of point this out here and say this, that Dr. York and them really only gave you a watered down version of this shit. This shit that they talking about with the Anunnaki and all of that, he gave it to you as a religion. He made them into essentially like gods. Like, he clanked them up, really. Because if you really want to get down into the nitty gritty and on the gutter level for real about this whole Anunnaki thing, I mean, they manipulating just like, it's not really even a just like though, because I want to say we're just like the rulers and the Rockefellers and all that, but it's worse than that. It's not even that. What they're doing is just Legos compared to the power and control that these beings have. And I'm going to kind of show you what they did with this whole experiment of Shimti. So Shimti was a laboratory, and essentially, they teach it like it was a place where the Anunnaki came. This is how, I'm serious, this is how like Zacharias Stitcher and I think these religious scholars teach it like this, like they came to this laboratory, with these test tubes. It was a group of people essentially working on this project, and over time they created these clones, and and they put them in the field and had them work in the field, mining for them and mining for gold, and and these were pious gods. And they had problems, and they show you some of the corals. Don't get me wrong. I mean, they didn't just make them look totally. I mean, they talked about like the lust and the materialism that they were into, but they don't. That's lightweight compared to what I see in these texts. So let's talk about Shimti. So with Shimti, that was essentially a group of that was a phase of the cloning project. Is essentially what Shimti was. And Shimti was a phase of the cloning project where the Anunnaki decided to teach the clones a higher level of sexuality that they were not used to. At this time, the Anunnaki really, the first clones were taught more like a heterosexual type of sexuality to keep them up under control. And Shimti represents an aspect where they taught a group of these clones, okay, we're going to teach them some more top flight game. We're going to hip them on some deeper shit, basically. You see what I'm saying? So Shimti represents when they decided to teach them a higher level of sex. And this is when the clones began to go out and partake in sexual ritual with women that were already seasoned. You got to remember this now. So they weren't necessarily taking advantage of women, but they thought they were. But they were partaking in sexual ritual with women that were already seasoned in this, and they were thinking that they were turning these women out, and they were teaching them this game about how to manipulate these women. And this is essentially what Shimti represents, and how they ended up ending the experiment is that they played them, because at the end of the day, they all ended up making them sleep with this head. See, they call her Jezebel in the Bible. And it's this head witch, this head occult witch that everybody ended up in different ways, and they didn't know, through different rituals, every top flight scholar, every top flight clone that had money in this particular time ended up sleeping with this top flight witch, and she bankrupts every last one of them. And she was able to do it through a deep occult ritual. And that's what the Labratory of Shimti, believe it or not, it documents that experiment. It goes into that particular experiment. Now, to get more into this, you got to research the stories in Nergal and the Rich Nergal and go into some of the romance and the drama to really get an idea of what I'm talking about, because that's the backdrop when they talking about all that romance. See, that's really letting you know that they were into some top flight stuff and some high level stuff, and that's showing that they were master manipulators, and they were going around they were the ones that taught these clones the certain doctrine, and they was doing that for a particular reason. The reason why they even created the whole laboratory, the whole experiment. This is from my experiment. A lot of people, of course, they're not going to like this. Some guy with a few low views, whatever, some ghetto scholar, whatever, who cares, you know what I'm saying? But like I said, when I get the information, the ancestors bring it to me, I channel it and bring it to you the same way. And that's essentially one aspect of the cloning. And I'm going to just tie in various stories, and you're going to start to see, like, okay, I see what you're getting at, because this stuff is gruesome, some of it is deep. But so that's essentially what it is. And this same ritual still plays out in many of your, brothels and different, high-level, rich sex circles and things of that nature, where people know about their sexuality and they capitalize off of it. And it's not that I'm out here and they like, well, you ain't making no money, you just out here telling the game whatever. Like, you don't really know the situation I'm into. Like, my background is a son in the 8th house, so this is a part of my experience. And it's like, people first come at me and they like, well, you know what I'm saying, you talk about this type of information, they don't expect me, you know what I'm saying, to be like on the, on the sexual type of level. They expect me, you know what I'm saying. That's why I say the religion pious aspect has blocked what a lot of they were into in that. And it's like, not to say that we should be manipulators and things in that nature like them, but they had an agenda. It was a reason why they was doing that, and they knew a secret about these gates and this universe and how it's set up, and they knew that they had to do certain things and certain rituals to keep certain stuff going. And the deeper you get into this, I mean, I know I'm ahead of my time maybe, and a lot of people may not understand this, but the deeper you get into this, man, to start walking these gates, you're going to find yourself more alone but more present with their ancestors. And not only that, in tune with a grid and be able to just get information just about the drop of a dime, man. So that's Shimti. I'm going to come back up with more as the ancestors lead me to more on this cloning. I'm going to put a pin in it for now and say I thank you for listening and watching. And when I come back with more, because I will be coming back with more, telling you the stories about, because I really want to show you the sexuality and how our sexuality progressed from their desires and these conspiracies that they were into. A lot of what you want and desire came from that. Like, even right now, came from this soap opera that they were into, and as their children, they put this into us. But once you break this code, that our so-called fathers and the Anunnaki and the ancestors had us put up under. See, once you break this code and get deeper into, higher levels of channeling and being able to move on your own as an independent being, you'll see the game, man. And it's all definitely a game, and I'm learning more and more of it. So expect this to keep going. Stay vigilant, and I'll be coming back with more as Spirit leads me. Have a good evening. Namaste.